Welcome to a KalikaFX live stream on how to create a colorful gridded transition in Adobe Illustrator for After Effects animation. Let me show you the animation that we're going to make next week, which is based on the layouts that we're going to design this week. So here we go. It's loading, sorry. All right, we don't like playing back at real time because we are streaming. So let me just show you what it looks like finished. I have a little finished animation right here. Oh, hi, Carol. All right, here we go. So this was inspired by a really cool social media ad that I saw that was made by a company called Bando. They sell gifts and home furnishings and stuff. And it was made like about a year ago, and one of my students posted it and I loved it. And I was like, let's do a thing. And so I'm doing a thing. So the first thing I want to talk about is how you recreate something that you find on social. So you need to make some observations, right? So the first thing that I noticed was that they were using super saturated, vibrant colors. The images were primarily naturally lit. And this was all from the original Bando grid transition. It would help if I showed you guys that. So I did this as a screen recording of the video. And all this is in the assets for this live stream, which is, here we go. The assets for this live stream are on Google Drive. There is a bit link in the description for this, so you can take a look at all that stuff, and that'll come really handy for when we're designing. So yeah, so when I was watching this thing to begin with, I realized like, wow, they're using a lot of really vibrant colors. They have this serif font that's kind of decorative, like it's got all these cool flourishes and stuff. They will sometimes just pop things on and off, and that's totally okay. And then they have this cool grid transition that I really liked. So this is what I made inspired by the Bando ad. And I decided, you know what, let's just, let's try it out. Let's try to do a similar style. It's not as long as the original Bando ad, but it's similar. Okay, so let's take a look at our assets really quick. So right here, let me just pull up my Google Drive for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. And it's in our description. If you don't see the description, just let me know and I'll pop it into the chat, okay? So let me just pull this up real quick. All right, and it was grid trans design. Okay, so this, so there we go. So this is the stuff that's in our grid trans design folder. We've got finished design files, which are our Illustrator files. We have the finished grid transition animation that I showed you guys, and we have our storyboards. We also have a document that has grid transition assets in it. Okay, so if I double click on that, it's going to take me to grid transition assets, and this is where you can download all the stuff that you're going to need for this particular file. So was everyone able to find that bit.ly link in the video description? If not, just let me know and I'll pop it in there. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to need to download those pictures. So I have like a lady, some plants, a photo grid, some toilet paper, and a reading nook. And then we've got some fonts from Adobe. You can install those so that yours can look just like mine. And then I have the hex codes for all the colors that I used in order of colors that I used. So let me go over to Illustrator. Hello, Illustrator. Come on over. Okay. And if you're very comfortable with Illustrator, then this will be kind of old hat for you. And if you are fairly new to Illustrator, then maybe you'll learn a thing or two. So it should be fun. All right, so for adding the fonts, let's do that first. You can add them really at any point, but it's probably easiest if you add them first. So just go to your Adobe Creative Cloud app, and then you can go to the little font thingy up in the upper right, and then you can choose Browse More Fonts. And the font that I am using is called, like, it has like a really creepy name. It's called Lust. But the way that I found it was by going into the side here, and I think I went into like brush pen a little bit. I checked out luxury to see whether any of these would work, and just kind of went through until I found something that I liked. And then to activate it, so right up in the search area, I just type in Lust. It'll take me to the Lust, everything that has the word Lust in it, including Lustig and Lust Sans, and I wanted this one. So you would click on it, and then in the upper right corner, there's like a little button to activate all the different weights that there might be for that particular font. See, activate fonts. Okay, now I only activated Lust Regular, it worked great, and then I activated the other fonts that were listed in here, right? Poiré and Futura PT Book. All right, so I have those and I have my colors, and let's just like jump in and get started. Let me pull up my storyboards. I'm just gonna keep those kind of open the whole time so that I know what layouts I need to make. So we have one layout that has this pink background, and then it has these little grid stripes, and then it's got the cropped photo. Then we have another layout that's all green, and it's got the pink, and then we actually leave the pink up there and then just add photos on top of it with the same clipping mask every time. Then we go to a grid transition, we have one more photo, and then this circle pops up with the text on it, and we have our final lockup. All right, so it's not too many layouts. I think it should not take us too long, but we'll see. All right, so to start off with, in Illustrator, I'm gonna make a brand new document. So my current document that I have here, if I just click on the little artboard tool and I go to artboard options, it's gonna tell me like the exact size, and it's about like 1245 by 625, let's say, okay? So 1245 by 625. Oh, sorry, that was silly. Let me undo that. Cancel. I was reading the wrong numbers. All right, so right over here, 1245 by 1560. So 1245 by 1560. And it's like a little bit stretched out from being square. I'm gonna go and make a new document using these settings. And there's no template that really fits, but I can just do File New, and it's gonna open up my little browser thingy. And I always go to Art and Illustration. The reason why is because some of the other ones are just wrong. For example, if you go to Film and Video and you use the Film and Video HD preset, it's got like an extra artboard just sort of hanging out in most versions, which is kind of crazy. So I go to Art and Illustration, and then from Art and Illustration, I'm gonna go to the 1920 by 1080 point, and I'm gonna input my values there, right? So the width was 1245, and my height was 1560. All right, so I'm gonna change my units to pixels, and it doesn't convert it from points to pixels, thank goodness, it just changed the unit. And color mode RGB, totally fine, and I hit create. Wait for it. There we go. And let's pull up our document here. And I'm actually going to take all of this text and just copy it. And I'm going to make a text layer in my Illustrator file so that I have my cheat sheet right in front of me. So I'm going to switch my colors to black and none. And I'm going to click with my type tool and just shift click in my properties window until it's nice and big. And then I'm just going to paste those. Oh, come on. Weird. Pasted it way over here for some strange reason. Okay. So then I'm just going to shift. There we go. And just move that over. All right, so that's my like little color faker. I'm just gonna click over and delete all these extra little bits. So there's that. And I'm also gonna bring in my storyboards. And my storyboards, I'm just gonna pop them into the corner. This is sort of like my workspace, like sort of like my desk. Nobody's gonna see any of this stuff because it's outside of the artboard. So I'm gonna go to File menu. I'm gonna go to Place. And I'll choose my Grid Trans Storyboards, Place. And you don't have to hold Shift or anything, just click and drag. And this is just gonna keep me grounded as to what I need to do. Okay, so I'm gonna lock the linked file and I'm going to make a new layer for my background color. And my background color is going to be this F number here. So I'm just gonna take the type tool, select this text and copy it, and then make on layer 2 by clicking the little belly button up here. Grab up the rectangle tool, double click the foreground color, and then in this hex code area, I can just paste that color combination and just hit OK. And I'm in the rectangle tool, and I like to go a little bit outside of my artboard area and just make sure that you are working in a slightly oblong composition. And it's okay if you need to change it a little bit later, but if you're wondering what those settings were, again, it was 1245 by 1560. So I'll just click off of everything, grab my type tool, and in my cheat sheet area here, I'm just going to type in 1245 by 1560 pixels. All right, so there's my dimensions, and I'm not going to lock this layer itself. I'm just going to lock the stuff inside because I want to have access to the text. Okay, so I have that, and then I'm going to bring in my photo, and my photo needs to be on a new level. So I'm just going to lock my pink and do File, Place. And I'm going to navigate over to where all of my photos are being saved. So my photos are currently in this links folder because I had originally saved them into that. And one nice thing about Illustrator is that you have the choice between embedding an image and referencing it. And referencing just means that it's talking about it, right? It's just talking about your picture, where it lives on your computer. Whereas if it's embedding it, it's making the Illustrator file bigger. Now, the advantage of embedding it is you don't have to worry about those external links, right? You can just take your Illustrator file and it's going to grow bigger and bigger, kind of like how a Photoshop file grows bigger and bigger when you add more stuff to it. Or a suitcase grows bigger and bigger when you put things into it, rather than just little Post-it notes that say, like, pair of pants, heavy shoes, and so on. So, yeah, you can link to it or not. I like to link to it sometimes because then I can go into the original and I can adjust the colors and things like that and then resave it. And I'll just update it in my Illustrator file automatically. If it's embedded, it won't update. So I'm going to link. I'm going to choose Pexels Anna, and I'm going to hit Place. And if you have any questions as you're doing this with me, feel free to just type them into the chat. If you have questions after the live stream, if you're watching the replay, you can just drop it into the comments and I'll be happy to answer. So here's our lady, and we want our lady to look like this, okay? And I have this little storyboard panel that I'm trying to follow along with. Now, you could, like if you had actual storyboard panels, and sometimes like you'll have a designer who's like, I made you with layouts in InDesign, and you're like, wow, I can't really use those very easily in After Effects. And sometimes that involves recreating it, which is sort of a drag. But you could conceivably just put those images right on top. Let me show you how that's done. So I would make a brand new layer, and I would do File, Place, and I have all of my storyboard panels here in a folder called Boards. So I would take this, probably would turn off the link and hit Place. and then I would drag it right like from corner to corner of my artboard. And because I have Smart Guides on, which is under the View menu, Smart Guides, it's gonna snap to stuff. And then I could take this and just turn on its belly button, go to Properties, and in the Properties window, I could just reduce the opacity. Okay, and then I could try to match it, which is kind of nice, right? So I could just lock that, and then I could come over here and click on my image, and then pull the corner. Now the problem is when you're trying to pull the corner, you have to hold the Shift key down. You didn't have to do that when you placed the image in the first place, but you do have to do that when you are like trying to resize an image that's already been placed, because otherwise it is going to distort, and that's not going to be good. Now, because this is a photo, that means that it is raster or bitmap, and even though Illustrator is a vector program largely, that doesn't magically make this photo into a vector, and that doesn't magically mean that this photo can now be resized whatever size you like. So that's something to be mindful of. And if you want to like kind of check how big you've made your image, you can always do that. Sometimes in the Properties window, it'll give you that information in terms of scale. Here it didn't, but what I do is I go over to the Links window, and my links are hiding somewhere. Here they are. Here's my Links window. And if I click on the link, I can swivel this little thingy open, and it tells me whether I've made it bigger or not. So that was my layout. This is my image, and I made it like 34%. So we're in the clear. As long as I'm like under 135%, I'm pretty good. Okay, so yeah, that's close enough. I'm gonna dig that. And if your what's it called, Smart Guides are getting in the way, you can always just hit Command or Control U to turn them off. Okay, all right, so now I'm just gonna pull that. Just get it set up nicely. Fabulous. So once you have your photo set, I'm just going to turn off my little layout thing here. Then we're going to make a clipping mask. Okay, now the clipping mask should be sort of horizontal-ish, and I want it to be on the same layer as this. So I'm just going to drop my little reference image down a level, turn on the visibility of my picture again. And if I want to drop my, actually, let's put it below. I'm just going to make a rectangle that's the same dimensions as my photo here. Okay, so there's my photo. And in order to make a clipping mask, all you do is you take the rectangle and put it on top, and then Shift Select and turn on the belly button for the photo underneath, and just go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. So now I have that, right? And I'm going to turn on my layout again. And if you guys want to play along here, I'm going to drop into our Google Drive my boards themselves in case if you want to actually use them in order to do your illustration or your layout. Okay. So there's 10 boards, and you should have those in just a minute. Cool. All right, so the next thing I want to do is make these stripes, okay? So my next color is my coral. So here's the lady, and the background is below, and then I have one more layer in between, which is my stripes. So my text and my lady can be on the same layer, but my stripes need to be on their own layer. So I'm going to click the little belly button right there, and I'm going to take my color picker. And the reason why I always click off of everything first is because otherwise it is going to change your color, which is not cool. And then I'm going to turn off the stroke, go to the color, and double click the color fill in order to change it. Alternatively, I can just use this like little color area, right? Whoops, cancel. T for text, and I want orange. So I'm just going to copy that, and then into my color picker, I just paste it. Click off, there's orange, yay. And I'm going to grab up my rectangle tool and click off. Here we go. Here's my rectangle. And I'm going to draw just a nice orange, like, square, okay? And then I'm going to make these coral pieces that are my stripes. So I can lock my rectangle, and I can pull up my type tool again, T for type, go to coral, and copy that hex code, and get the rectangle tool. And because I have my snapping turned on, it should snap to where that rectangle is up top here. And then I can just pull down, and that did not give me the right color. So if you want to change the color after the fact, just hit T for type, and then grab up this color here, copy, select this, and then go into the color window and paste, and hit return. Okay, so now I have that coral box, and I'm going to make duplicates of it. Easy way to make duplicates, hold the Option or Alt key, drag across, hold the Shift key down, and it's going to snap. Okay, there's one. Option or Alt, drag across, it snapped again. And I'm going to take all these guys, click and Shift click to get them all. Then you can click, Shift click. There we go, Control click to get it out of order. And then I'm going to align it to the top. So I go to Window menu, Align if it's not open already, and I have mine right here. And I'm just going to align to the top. Oh, not to the top of the artboard, the top of the selection. So align these stripes to the top in case if they're not. So these are my stripes, and they ended up on some wackadoodle layer. So I can just grab them all and drag them into the proper layer. So now I have right here, I have my stripe layer, I have my pink layer underneath it, and then I have my photo. And on the photo layer, I'm also going to put in the type. And again, if you want to play along, there's a bit link in the description, and that has all of the files. And if you double click on boards, all of those boards are there. These are screen grabs from the animation. And the everything you should need is in here as well, including grid transition assets where you can download the photos. All right, so next we're going to take our type tool, so T for type, and text should be white, and I'm just going to draw a box, and that way it'll just sort of automatically justify my text to it. Okay, and I want to make this that Lust font, and I want to make it nice and big. So in the character area, I'm going to type in Lust. I want Lust regular, and I'm just going to type into this area the actual copy. Okay, and selecting it all, just shift click on the size here until it gets to be big enough. Okay, and yeah, that looks pretty good. We can always obsess over it later on, right? And if this is the wrong color, just click on the white chip here, and now it's a better color. All right, so there's my text and my photo. And I call this L1 text plus photo. Okay, so that one's done. And now I can move on to the next layout, which is this green color with the pink box on top of it. So I'm going to make another new layer, and I can simply just take this rectangle, and if I hold the Alt key and drag it up, it's going to make a copy of it. See the little plus next to the fist that it made? Okay, so now I have that up there, and I'm going to fill it up with my trusty green color, copying, and I'm going to click the little belly button for it and double click paste. All right, so now I have my green. And right here, one kind of nice thing that you can do, if you're done with one storyboard panel, you can just replace it for another one. You don't have to like keep putting new ones on there. So I could take this Layouts 52, and at the bottom of the links panel, I can click on relink, and I can say, dude, actually let's use 141. And now I have the other layout, which is handy. And then I want to make another layer for the inner box there. Here's my rectangle tool, and I'm going to make that box, and then I can always change the color after the fact. It's a little bit hard to see. Okay, and in terms of color, T for type, and we want it to be that pink color. So I have green, and then I have dark pink here. So copy, and there's my rectangle. You just click the belly button to highlight it. There you go, paste. So now there's the pink. Now, I showed these layouts to a friend of mine who is a pretty intense graphic designer. She's really, really good. And she said, make sure that your layers are aligned properly. So I'm going to click Align Objects to Artboard in the Align window, and I do the center alignment. I'm also going to do the vertical alignment, okay? And this text is a similar size to what we just made, right? So I could just take this type and Alt drag it up into the pink layer. And then just make sure it actually shows up. There we go. And then this, I'm going to align like this, and just type in the copy that I want there. All right, so that's too big. It's like too much text. So I just switched over to the selection tool, and I'm just going to drag down a bunch. And I'm going to center my text, so I can just go over to Properties and Paragraph Center. There we go. And align center and center. And one thing to keep in mind about this particular layout, my friends, is that our lines are a little bit inconsistent in terms of their design. And that is to say that typographically speaking, the top two lines feel like pretty good, but then the second two and then the third two feel too far apart. And the reason why is because lines 1 and line 2, this one has a descending letter, it goes below the baseline, and the letter F and letter D are ascenders, they go above the X, the height of the letter X, or the typical lowercase letter. So we need to actually tighten this a little bit and tighten this like a lot. So I'm going to select this layer, or sorry, this line of text, and I'm going to go into my Properties panel, ta-da, and I'm going to drop leading a little bit. Leading being the amount of space in between lines. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to drop that leading too. And this one I need to reduce quite a bit because there's no descender or ascender. Yeah, and that feels a lot more comfortable. So I'm just going to realign that, and that's good. And that one is layout 2. L2 text plus box, okay? And then we want to bring in our other layouts, right? So here's this particular storyboard panel. I'm going to relink it to the next one up, which is my plants with the hammock. Let's just undo really quick. Yeah, I think I'll redo. Okay, so again, we can always obsess after we've gotten all the layouts in. This is one of my tendencies, is that I tend to obsess too early. So here's the rectangle, and I'm just going to go into my align window, make sure that's aligned properly. All right, so I'm gonna get the plants thing up next. File, place, and from my little collected folder there, we have our plants. Wait for it. There's plants. I hit place. I didn't link it this time, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. So I'm just holding Shift and pulling that down. Okay, and that's good enough. Ooh, I need a new layer for it. So new layer by clicking the little plus, drag the image up. If anyone has questions, please just drop them into the chat. That's totally fine. Here's my selection tool. I'm just going to shove that image up, shift arrow up a bunch of times, and there. Okay, that's good enough. Again, not obsessing. And then let's just make that slightly bigger, holding the Shift key down. And I'm going to make a box. And that box is going to be my clipping mask. So I'm going to just draw a like rectanglish box. That's a word, rectanglish, right? And then here's my box, happiness and joy. And I make sure that that box is on the same layer as my image. Belly button, Shift, belly button, click, Shift to get both those guys. And let's clipping mask that. Yeah, okay, cool. Now, supposing you wanted to move the photo like behind the clipping mask, you could do that really easily. Just click on where it says image, and then you can just use your Shift and arrow keys. You can grab your selection tool, hold the Shift key and pull the corner to make it bigger if you needed to. So you still have that flexibility, which is really nice. You're not like trapped once you do the clipping mask. It's not like a binding agreement. Okay, so now we've got our clip group. It looks awesome. I'm excited about that one. And all I'm gonna do, just move that a touch. I'm going to make another new layer for my next picture. And let's bring in that layout. So I'm just gonna go back into my links, go back into my layouts, relink, and let's get photos up. Photos. And see here, you can turn on the link now. So we could have conceivably just said, yeah, take us to the original file, but then also let us link to it. So as long as you haven't switched computers or you haven't moved or deleted the files, you can do this. You can link to the original if you accidentally didn't turn this on and it got embedded. Okay, so I'm going to use the photos next. And oops, undo. I wasn't supposed to do that. I'm supposed to replace this. Oops. So click on the little chain linky thing. And then here's I needed to go to my boards. Okay, there's my photos. Okay, so now I have the photos to align to. And in my new layer that I just brought up, I'm going to place my actual photos, right? So my actual photos, I saved them into a different folder, advanced folder, and that was this guy. Okay, I'm just going to Shift drag that and place it-ish. I'm accidentally moving something by accident. So make sure that you lock stuff that you don't want to move. And then here's my photos, and I'm just going to use my Shift and arrow keys to get those into place. Now again, I'm doing this like fairly quick just because I want to get out of here. Don't you? Like get some dinner or something? All right, so here we go. Now I've got that kind of sized up, and I can scale it up a little bit. And you can scale up to 150%. There we go. Nice. So that's in place. And if I go to this links window, remember, you can always swivel that open and it'll tell you what size you've made it. So I've made this 42%. That's perfectly safe. I can go up to like 135 and we should be all right. So here's my this one photo, and I can just swivel that open, and I'm gonna copy this rectangle that I used for the clip group for the previous layout. So if I hold the Option or Alt key and just drag up, okay, and then click this, Shift click the belly button and the layer, and then I go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make, it clips it, right? And it's the same size as the previous one. And I don't need to move anything. It should work just fine. And I'm gonna do that one more time, and that's with the toilet paper. So File, Place, and here's my toilet paper, place again, and pull. And that's like, it's a really like apocalyptic image of a man hoarding toilet paper. Yeah, this person's hoarding toilet paper, and their hands are really dirty, and they're wearing a gas mask. It's very striking. So at any rate, I'm going to pull in the layout for that in an ideal world, but in an unideal world, which is reality, I'm just going to crop this. So it doesn't matter that much. So I'm going to just click on the little belly button and just shift and arrow up until I get it to a size that I like. Now I don't want to show the gas mask. I don't want to show his hands, his or her hands. I just want the thing to show only the object, right? So yeah, I think that's, what am I moving? I'm moving my linked file. Lock you, okay. Yeah, and that's pretty good. And once again, I'm just gonna take the rectangle from one of my other clip groups, because they're all supposed to just, the photos are just supposed to go boom, 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 like right on top of each other in the animation. And I'm going to Alt drag up to that layer, and then click, Shift click, belly button click, Object, Clipping Mask Make. All right, so now we got our toilet paper layer. So looking at our boards, we're done with the entire first row, which is super exciting. So the next thing we gotta do is make this here grid. The grid covers the entire frame, okay? And it could be a little difficult if you've never done something like this before, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm gonna turn off my little layout or storyboard cheat sheet. I'm gonna make a brand new layer, and I'm going to make a new block in a new color. I'm going to use this like kind of mustard color here. So T for type, double click this, copy, and go in here and paste. Oh, come on, friends. Let's try that again. Copy, paste. Okay, so now I have this here new color. I'm going to take my rectangle tool, draw a box. Holding Shift will keep it proportional. And that ended up on a rando layer, so I'll just drag it all the way up. There we go. And then I'm going to make copies going all the way across. So Alt or Option also works up top here. And if I hold the Shift key down and I have those smart guides turned on from my view menu, it's going to lock them and kind of snap them next to each other. So that's kind of nice. So now I have two. And then, you know, I know they're the same color. It's supposed to be a checkerboard, but that's all right. So I have these two, and then I'm going to hold the Alt and Shift and drag. Oh, not like that. Alt first, drag, then hold Shift, and it's going to snap. Okay. Now I can see that this isn't quite big enough to fill up the whole horizontal area of my layout here. So what do I do? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Let me show you what I'm going to do. Let me keep this guy. Okay. So I take my selection tool and I select all four of these guys. Notice I locked everything else so I don't accidentally select it. And then just grabbing the corner of one of them, if I hold the Shift key down, it's going to like snap to the edge, okay? And then I can pull this in so it's right inside of the corner there, and then pull again if I want to. Now here's the thing. it's better to kind of go outside of this artboard than it is to have like a hairline on the edge. So I'm going to make this ever so slightly larger, dragging and holding shift a little bit. And it's okay if it's slightly big, okay? And then just using my arrow keys so that this is centered. That looks pretty good. And then I can Alt drag going down. And shift click to get all of those, and Alt drag again. Okay. And then I just need one more row, I think. So I clicked off of everything, and then I shift click to get a bunch, Alt drag, hold the shift key after I Alt drag, and then I want to see that pink line up top. See that? That means that it is connected. And that's really important, friends, because you don't want to have like this weird hairline that shows just a little bit of photo through it. That always looks really bad. So let's not do that. So I'm going to click out of here. Here we go. And then I'm going to select every other one and change their color. So let's take our selection tool and let's look at our storyboard. And it looks like the very first square is actually the mustard color. So I'm just going to go through and shift. Oh, hello. Why did you do that? I'm going to shift click on every other one. And I know that it's selected because I get this little dot in the middle. And the dot tells me, hey, you are selected in the middle. That's so great. And then I can use this other color. So I can just go into the color picker here and just type in that I want, teal, 14768F. Okay, so now I got teal. Hitting enter, 14768F. Fabulous. So now I have my checkerboard. That's awesome. So I'm going to call this CK, and I can lock it. And then we need to get our throw pillows, our circle, and our final layout. Pretty easy. So I'm going to go back, and here is my my storyboard layer. And I'm going to bring that back in just by going to links. I'm going to replace it with this throw pillow image. So I click on relink in the links window, and I'm going to go to throw pillows and keep it on link and hit place. I just realized that I haven't saved. Whoops, wrong image. Let's try again. Link. And I saved those storyboards into our Google Drive folder. And again, the bit link is in the description for the video, so just check that out when you get a chance. In here, I have it saved in a folder called Boards. Here's my throw pillow image. And place. There you are. And now I can make a new layer right underneath and place the throw pillow image and all of those guys right in the Google Drive document. So place. These are all royalty-free images, my friends. So if you decide to use them, just try and credit the person who made them. And that information is in the metadata for the image, which is pretty cool. So inside of layouts, I have it in my links, and it's just throw pillows. There we go. There's the little icon that means place. Hold the shift key down and pull, pull, and let go. And then with the selection tool, I can just shove it up and into place. I can also use shift and my arrow keys on the keyboard. Yeah. All right. So this is looking pretty good. And again, I can always obsess with it later. Let me zoom out a little bit and let me make a new rectangle. And this new rectangle is going to be my clipping mask for this photo. And if that rectangle is right on top, that's where we want it. If it's not, just change the order. Click, shift click, belly button click, object, clipping mask, make. All right, so now we have our throw pillows. And finally, we want to get our circle in there. Let me just make sure that this particular image is centered. So I'm just going to click on the little belly button next to it. And with the selection tool and the align window, I'm going to align just to make sure that it is indeed centered. And I thought that it looked kind of nice with a slightly chunky border, so that's pretty good. Okay, so finally, let's make that circle. So here's another new layer, and the circle color is this one right here. So making sure that nothing is selected, double clicking on that text and copying it, and then clicking off of all that and double clicking the color chip, paste, or you could do it in the color window, either or, and clicking the belly button for that new layer that I made and selecting it. And then if I hold the rectangle tool, I get to the ellipse, which is nice. And then just hold the shift key down and make a nice circle. Okay, now we want this to be the same as our storyboard, right? So once again, I can go into my storyboard layer, I can go into my links, and I can take this layout image and replace it with boards next to last. There it is, and here's my circle. And in my align window, align center, center. And then I can make it a little bit smaller. So if I go to Object, Transform, Scale, and I have Preview turned on, and I keep it on Uniform, I can just use my down arrows until it's like the right size, down and up arrows. And that looks about right. I was close, it's 5% away, it's all right. So that looks good. And then I'm gonna get my type tool out. And my type tool, I wanna make sure that I don't accidentally start typing around the edge of the shape. So you can lock the actual shape, not the layer, but the shape within it. And then I'm gonna make a text box right in there. And then I'm gonna select all and just hit delete to get rid of all the text that's in there. I'm just gonna type in, and friend with the cozy. And then I love the quotation marks on this font. But we also need to adjust some leading. So just selecting those last 3 lines, going into properties and adjusting the leading there. So I want to make it a little wider in between here. And then this guy, it's interesting. It appears that our designer, AKA me, made an extra space, which actually, I don't know whether I agree with. Yeah, we'll leave it. Okay, we'll leave it without. Cool, now that is absolutely the wrong color, so I'm just going to click on that text and in the color window, choose white. Yay. You're supposed to change to white, friend. Why didn't you? It totally didn't. Let's try again. We'll highlight it all this time. There we go. Yeah, now I had no excuse but to change to white text. Fabulous. So now I have all of that, and I can align that, which is nice. And I did not want to align it like that. I want it to just feel visually centered. It doesn't have to be mathematically centered. And that looks really good. I like that. Our final layout is simply our brand. And our brand, we're going to bring in that layout right here. It's gift store. I don't even know if this place actually exists. We'll see. Maybe they exist. Maybe they're really great. And this, I'm going to put on a brand new layer again. And I was actually using like a different color. But yeah, we'll use the mustard again. Why not? So let's grab our rectangle tool and let's click in here. And our mustard color was FEB004. February 4. All right, and I'm going to make that the same size as our other panels. Whoops, that was not a rectangle, that was an oval. Click and hold your oval and switch it over to the rectangle, shall we? Okay, so now I have this and I'm going to draw my box. Excellent. And that's my mustard. And then I'm going to make my gift store box on a separate layer, holding shift to make it perfectly square. And this guy is going to be our forest green, which is this business right here. Okay, so I replaced the medium green for mustard, so forest green. Yeah, so it's that color, okay? So I didn't have it selected, so it didn't do it. So there we go, and now I can paste that in there and hit return. And it changed. All right, we are almost finished, my friends. Let's click off of everything. Let's make our text layer for gift store, and we need to use a particular font. So if we look in our grid transition assets, we can see that we have Poiret and Futura. So Poiret is this font up top here, okay? So I'm just gonna click once because it's a single line and type in gift store. Which doesn't look bad in that font, honestly, but let's switch to the selection tool so that if we make any changes to this layer, they'll actually take Poiret. There we go. We want that to be white, and we want that to be a bit bigger. But what are you moving? I accidentally moved my storyboard. That's not good. Let me just lock that. Okay, so here's my text. Just move that into place. All right, good. All right, and then we also need to have that text on a separate layer, and then we need to have the other text also on a separate layer. So I make another layer for the other text. And the other text, it's a bit tricky because we need to make like a little dot and whatever. So anyways, I'm gonna go over to properties and I'm gonna just change this to Futura book. And I'm gonna make it pretty small, shift and arrow down a bunch of times. I'm just gonna type in over here, giftstore.com, space. And then we have to make that like little dot kind of thing. I'll do that later. And then I'm gonna do the @gift store. Okay, now once again, my text showed up black. I'm gonna make it white. Grab my selection tool and, oh brother, I'm gonna move that into place. Sorry, I'm rushing and then I make mistakes. We're almost finished, hang in there. So here's my gift store text. Just gonna place that in here. Okay, and it looks like I might have given it too many spaces. Let me zoom in a bunch and just make some adjustments there. So I'm just doing Control or Command plus to zoom in. And it looks like the font is about the right size, but not quite the right spacing between the letters. So let's just drop the space between the letters a bit. Make them a bit cozy. Move that over. And I find that it's a little bit easier to do these types of adjustments if you have your text left justified, because then it's not like you have to move it every single time. See, it's like sort of adjusting only the right side, not the left. And I think my font is also a bit big. So I'll just do that. And okay, so that's pretty good. And then I need another space in here. And I'm not thrilled with the placement of the @ I feel like it's too high, too big, but mostly too high. So you can always drop your text by clicking these little more options right here. Oh, there it was. It was there and then it left. Here we go. Come on. You can do it. There. So in that, we have this subscript, superscript thing, like the adjustment for the baseline. And I can just like bring it down a little bit. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this might not be the right Futura. So I should double check that. It was Futura PT book and I was using BT. How dare I? That can make like a really big difference though. Futura PT book. Oh my gosh, that made a difference, especially in the @ Did you see that? Futura PT book. So if you have something that's like already on your system and then you install an Adobe font, it's not automatically going to go for that. So now I have to actually give this more space. Yeah, that's better. Okay, now if you're on a Mac, it's really easy to type this little dot. On a PC, simple things like that sometimes aren't so simple. So I prefer to do it a little bit differently. And what I do, this is low tech, my friends. I go into my rectangle tool, I choose up my ellipse, and then I hold the shift key down while I make a little circle. And then I just move it with my little arrow keys until I'm happy with its placement. Yeah, I know, it's a little low tech, but it's all right. All right, so then I make sure that my gift store is on a separate level from the giftstore.com thing. So just drag and drop gift store into a separate level and then have that second line on its own. And yeah, we are pretty much done. What I would do at this point is I would go through and make a plan for how I'm going to animate this. So, all right, how are we getting from layout 1 to layout 2? And then I would determine based on that how many layers I really need to have. There are ways in After Effects to take Illustrator layers and manipulate them so that you don't actually need to have everything on a separate level. For example, with text, you can add masks in After Effects to separate text to separate layers. You don't have to have like every word on a separate layer unless you're planning to animate it one word at a time. And even then, there's ways around it. So I'm going to be showing you guys all kinds of things like that next time I cover this, which is going to be next week on Monday, okay? So next week, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to show you how to take this layout and how to animate it. It's going to be super fun. You're going to learn a bunch of things, including how to work with scripts, how to randomize how layers pop on, and how to make one piece of text animate in separate layers using masks. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the comments. And if you haven't yet, please like this video if you liked it. If you make something cool using these techniques, please tag me at KalikaFX. And you can also follow me on Twitter at KalikaFX, Facebook, KalikaFX Training, and Instagram. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll be on again tomorrow morning, which is Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., talking about how to use Premiere Pro with sketches to make an animatic. So you can take your sketches, time them out to audio, and then have like a rough draft of your animation that you can work with in After Effects. Alternatively, you can just like if you have like a layered file or an animation that you've made in Procreate, I'm going to show you how to bring that into Premiere Pro and use it as high res as possible as an element in a layered file. So it should be a lot of fun. Hope you can make it and stay in touch. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you soon. Bye.